Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be drawing and painting this beautiful iris. I got the reference picture off unsplash.com, which is a beautiful royalty-free reference site. They've got everything, all kinds of animals and stuff and flowers. So I wanted to draw this iris today. So I start by drawing the shapes of the petals. I don't worry about it being a flower. I just look at the individual shapes in every part of the flower and I draw those shapes one at a time. Then I start to add the little lines. You can see in the centre of the petals, there's beautiful little tiger colouring. So I just mark in with my pen and where I'm going to need to leave little patches of paper that I'll add the yellow and the white, or just leave the white of the paper is going to be the white of the picture. So now I wet a petal each one at a time and I add in this lovely lilac sort of colour. So I wet the paper, so I'm working wet in wet. So wet the paper, clean brush, and then drop a little bit of pigment in and let it flow down everywhere that I want that mauvey colour. I just add that water. And I do the same thing on the lower petals using a slightly darker purple. So I wet the paper and then I drop in, this is the first layer, I drop in that darker purple pigment on the bottom. And I take it right around the edges, but I'm being very careful to leave the lines that I've marked in because they're going to have that orange tone on them. Now for the next layer, so I build it up in layers, working from light to dark. So for the next layer, I re-wet the paper and I add slightly more pigment, slightly less water, so it gives you a stronger tone. And I do that on all of the petals. And I'm working my way up. It'll be 3 or 4 layers of different purples, and the final layer will be detail. So now I'm going to add the yellow to the base of the flower, and I'll add a little bit of green on top. And while that's still wet, I'll drop that in and it just flows down and mixes itself on the paper, which is a beautiful thing about watercolour, is it just sort of mixes itself. It's wonderful. So now I'm going to go in and add more of an orangey tone to the centres of each of these little stripes that I've drawn in. And I'm being careful to follow the direction of the petals and of the flower. And I'm also leaving a little bit of the paper, the white of the paper. Anywhere I can see that yellow and orange, I'm going to drop in the yellow and orange. So I start with a very pale diluted wash and then I add more. And now I'm going to start with the veins on the petals at the top. So again, it's that same very pale mauve, and I'm just careful to drop the little lines in the direction of the petal. So it sort of gives you the shape and gives you the softness of the petal. So I'll add a few little stronger lines around the edge, and I can see that little triangle shape there, so I add that in. Now for these petals at the back, I can see a few little lines. I follow the shape of that outside petal because it's that's half rounded. So I draw the vein in the middle and then the little bits on the outside. And I work my way up, just building up layers on layers. So I keep adding the detail anywhere I see the little veins. On the bottom flower now I mix up a stronger purple and I just fill in those shapes. You can see those shadow shapes on the reference photo. So I just fill in sort of as close as what I can see. I fill in the shadow areas and I do that on the underneath. And now I'm adding the stripes that I can see and getting into the finer detail. So it starts to get a bit more perspective now. So I add the darker lines into the bottom petals. And now I go in with a stronger orange, anywhere that I see it, around the whole flower. So I take that all the way around. And because it's quite a strong orange, I can actually add it over the purple in a couple of spots where I'd missed and not left highlights. So now it's the finishing touches. So I add a glaze. So all a glaze is I've let the top petals dry and I'm adding a very thin wash, a very watery wash of the same mauve over the top, just to strengthen it, just to not so much darken it, but just take it a couple of tones stronger around the edges of the top petals. and I'm adding in the final details. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Have an awesome day. Yeah, see you next time. Okie doke. Bye.